Then, they decided to have a different goal for their next film, The Jungle Book, based on the tale by Rudyard Kipling of the same name. It's the story of a boy who was raised by wolves in the jungle who needed to leave the place because a tiger named Shere Khan wants to kill him. So, Bagheera and Baloo help him to escape Shere Khan and return to civilization. Because that Walt was disappointed about the reviews of The Sword and the Stone, he was determined to make this film good. He gave storyman Larry Clemens the book and he told him,
"Alright, the first thing I want you to do is not to read it."
"Really? Oh, that's easy." The reason that Walt and the animators ditched the book was because in the original Kipling story, according to Walt, was too dark and too depressing. So he counted on the characters to drive the story. Their voices inspired the animators to create them. Some noteworthy characters are the vultures, since they're based on, well, you know. Actually, they're supposed to be voiced by the Beatles, but they had to change the plans at the last minute, so it's like an homage to them. Also, the song they sang, That's What Friends Are For, was supposed to be in a Beatles style, but Walt thought it would be dated, so they switched the style into a barbershop quartet. The original songwriter, Terry Gilkyson, quit because Disney doesn't want to do the darker side of the story. The only song that's in the film written by him was the Academy Award nominated Bare Necessities. The rest of the songs were written by the Sherman Brothers. When it was released, it was a great success in the box office and to the critics. A live-action remake has been made in 1994, and it made a spin-off series in the mid-90s called Tailspin that's about airplanes. How the Jungle Book and airplanes are related, I really don't know. Sadly, this was the last film that Walt had ever produced and gave his personal touch to. Now you might be wondering, why did Walt stop there? Well, technically, he didn't. It was all because of Disney's darkest day on December 15th, 1966, when Walt Disney had passed away. He died of a cardiac arrest following lung cancer surgery. While the rumor of him being cryogenically frozen has been passed around, he actually got cremated and his ashes are at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Never had I have heard that a rumor going on for years is actually the polar opposite of the truth. Almost everyone around the world was worried and concerned about the company without its fearless leader. Because of his death, Walt would never get to see some of his projects come to life. It's not just the Jungle Book, you know. There was also his live-action comedy, The Happiest Millionaire, the Mineral King Ski Resort along with the Country Bear Jamboree, New Orleans Square and two of today's most popular attractions of all time, and his biggest project of all, the Florida Project. His brother, Roy O. Disney, would later on take over the Disney Company and rename the Florida Project in honor of his brother, Walt Disney World. Another film he would never see made in completion was The Aristocats, the last film that was approved by Walt himself. It's the story of a cat named Duchess from Paris, France, whose kittens has been kidnapped by Duchess's owner's butler to get the cat's inheritance. Now it's up to an alley cat named Thomas O'Malley and his gang of other alley cats to save the kittens from the butler. During that time, making an animated romantic musical comedy with talking cats in Paris, France wasn't really original because in 1962, Warner Brothers released Yay Paris, which was an animated romantic musical comedy with talking cats in Paris, France. There were a lot of noteworthy actors who did this film, like Phil Harris, who did the voice of Baloo in The Jungle Book, does O'Malley in this film. There was also Thurl Ravenscorp, who was more recognizable as Tony the Tiger in early Kellogg's Frosted Flakes commercials and in classic Disney attractions. Ironically, he also did a singing voice in Gay Paris. Bill Thompson, who did the voice of Droopy, the White Rabbit, Mr. Smee, and Jock, played Uncle Waldo, and it was said to be his last role. And the voice of Scat Cat was supposed to be Louis Armstrong. Heck, the character was modeled after him and does some of his moves. But then he quit the film at the last minute. To replace him, they hired Scatman Crothers, who would later on be the voice of Jazz in the Transformers series. In the music department, the Sherman Brothers talked French singer Maurice Chevalier out of retirement to sing both the English and French translation of the title song. On its release in 1970, it was noted as a box office success. Now I know that this isn't much for facts, I mean most of the time I was talking about the actors. But, like in Sword of the Stone, I found little to no facts about this movie. But hey, at least this is better than no facts at all. In 1973, they have released Robin Hood, the story of a man who robs from the rich and gives it to the poor with his buddy, Little John. Ever since the early 30s, Walt always wanted to make an all-animated film of Robin Hood. Well, in 1954, he did release a live-action version. It was supposed to be a movie about Reynard the Fox, but Walt thought the character was more of a crook than a hero. Animator Ken Anderson, however, would use many elements from it for the film. Come to think of it, Little John really reminds me of Baloo from The Jungle Book. I mean, sure, they're not the same type of bears, but their animation is almost identical. And they're both voiced by Phil Harris, making him the actor who provided the most Disney supporting character voices in a row. The big difference would be that Little John is more responsible than Baloo, I guess. I think there might be also a similarity with Kaa and Sir Hiss, but you be the judge. The dance sequence after the archery is well known with many Robin Hood fans because it had 0% original animation. All the dances were recycled from other Disney films like Snow White, The Aristocats, and The Jungle Book. I know it's to cut down cost of the budget and to make the film look good at the same time, but I have to say, this is unbelievable. Legendary actor Peter Ustinov, who is well known to play over-the-top villains, voiced Prince John in this film, and people use this character as an example of some of Ustinov's greatest works. When it was released in 1973, it was a huge success, and it was nominated for an Oscar for the song Love. Even if the critics didn't like it, today it's considered a huge cult classic. 4 years after the release of Robin Hood, they released The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, based on the books by A.A. Milne. Surprisingly, this is actually another package film. You remember them, right? You know, several segments in one film, like in Fantasia or stuff like that. Anyways, the segments of this film are from 3 Winnie the Pooh shorts that were released before this movie. The first one is Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, where Pooh tries to get his hands on some honey. It was released on February 4th, 1966, making it the last animated short that Walt himself fully produced. The next segment is Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, where the 100-Acre Woods is in a terrible storm. This is the last animated short that Walt ever produced and won an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film in 1968. In this one, it had more memorable songs than the other 2 segments, which were all written by the Sherman Brothers, like Winnie the Pooh, The Wonderful Thing About Tigger, and Heffalumps and Woozles. The last segment is the 1974 Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, where Tigger really gets on Rabbit's nerves. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Short, but lost to another animated short called Closed Mondays. Originally, Walt wanted to make it just a Winnie the Pooh movie, but later decided to split it into 3 shorts. When it was released, it seems that everyone loved it, except for Ruth Hill Vigers, writer of A Critical History of Children's Literature. He wrote that Disney's Winnie the Pooh, and many other of Disney's adaptations, destroyed the integrity of the original books. In this day and age, we would have stood up and told him, "Dude, who cares? It's Disney, so sit down and shut up!" Today, the Winnie the Pooh franchise is now a major marketing tool for little children with toys, keychains, spin-offs, and many other stuff like that.